A ver, ¿está bien?
Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Total world victory of Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
My name is Sitapati Das, and this is Bhagavad-gita 146. And today we've got the whole family here. Dhanadevi, Isabella, Isha, and Prahlad. Say something. Say something.
Call me Isha. Makes me seem like a child. That's what I have to say.
Prahlad, you want to move into the light a little bit more?
Yeah,
Yeah, like move kind of into the center. Okay, Bhagavad-gita 146. Bhagavad-gita, the holy song of God, as it is. By Srila Prabhupada, Chapter 1, observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna Vishad Yoga, text 46. Last text of the chapter. We made it. Sañjaya uvāca, evam uktvārjunaḥ saṅkhye, rathopastha upāviśat, visṛjya sa-śaram cāpam, śoka-saṁvigna-mānasaḥ. Who wants to do the word for word? Isabella.
Word for word. You do the Sanskrit.
The Sanskrit.
Yeah, you do the Sanskrit and you do the English.
Yes. Yes.
Take it away.
Sañjaya uvāca,
Sañjaya said,
evam,
thus,
uktvā,
saying,
Arjuna,
Arjuna,
saṅkhye,
in the battlefield
ratha,
of the chariot,
upasthe,
on the seat,
upāviśat,
sat down again.
It's upāviśat.
upāviśat,
Sat down again.
Fuerte, hija.
Visṛjya.
visṛjya,
Putting aside,
sa-śaram,
along with arrows,
The S with the line on top of it is a sh sound, so it's sa-śaram.
sa-śaram,
along with arrows.
cāpam,
The C at the beginning is cha.
cāpam,
That's
The
it.
bow,
śoka,
Shoka.
śoka,
by lamentation,
Saṁvigna.
distressed,
śoka-saṁvigna-mānasaḥ,
within the mind.
Translation. You want to take that?
Yeah. Sañjaya said, Arjuna, having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief.
Purport.
Boo-hoo.
By His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. While observing the situation of the enemy, Arjuna stood on the chariot, but he was so afflicted with lamentation that he sat down again, setting aside his bow and arrows. Such a kind and soft-hearted person in the devotional service of the Lord is fit to receive self-knowledge. It's the 1972 edition, so this is the latest one. Here's the 72 edition. There are no changes. Yes, there is one. Yep, there's one change.
Oops.
As demonstrated in here, the annotated 1972 to 83. No, it's not in here. It must have been done in a later edit. But I found this on bookchanges.com. Ta-da! It's the view that Ian Daniel was talking about, where you can see the original on the left, the original Macmillan, and then the revised and enlarged, which is multiple edits, editions, like it's current at the moment. Yeah, it's pretty good, huh? Added, deleted, changed. It's a diff. It's a diff set. He's used a diffing tool. This is the kind of, you remember how I was saying yesterday that I worked, professionally as a technical writer and then an editor and a manager of a technical writing team. This is the kind of tooling that we used for everything that we did. So you'd do forensic analysis and you'd figure out what changed, when it got changed, who changed it. You could see everything.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's great. It's great that they've done this work. This is a devotee called Madhu Dvisa.
You know what? We have to shout out to this Prabhu for doing this, because the BBT The people responsible for doing all of the editing, book changes, or anything like that, they have not give themselves the trouble to do this. Instead, they reacted as, I am the super divinely intelligent here and nobody questioned me. But these Prabhus, this Prabhu who did that, acts with integrity and is loyal to Srila Prabhupada.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can actually examine it and see what's going on. So the only change that's been made is that there has been inserted in soft-hearted, such a kind and soft-hearted person. Soft-hearted. So it's a compound with the hyphen in between them. That's the only change that was made here. Om jnana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshur unmilitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sañjaya said, Arjuna, having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavad-gita in the matter... I missed one word there. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the first chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad-gita in the matter of observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So this is the end of the chapter. It ends with Arjuna throwing his bow and arrows aside and sitting down on the chariot in the middle of the two armies.
He's having a self-pity moment.
His mind overwhelmed with grief, yeah.
Understandable. Personally, I don't want to kill any of you guys.
Yeah. Sure about that?
Even if we were terrible, and you know we're doing the wrong thing.
Just get someone else to do it.
Well, it's the same, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, but you're not exactly the one who
Directly
has to see.
Involved, yeah.
It's like the ultimate loyalty test, you know? In the Bible, there's the story of Abraham and Isaac. You know, he had so much trouble having a son, having a child. Shoka, lamentation here. You know, in the story of Chitraketu Maharaj in the Bhagavatam, he had so much trouble having a child, he had like 100 wives, you know? He couldn't have a child with his wife, so he was like, I'll get another one, got another one, got up to like 100 wives, you know? It doesn't say it in the Bhagavatam, but I think that might be him.
Certainly. What are you doing with 100 wives and you're not getting them pregnant? It's because you, sir.
Anyway,
not working.
He was like, maybe the next one. He got up to 100. Eventually, Angara Muni gave him a benediction to have a child, and so gave him a fruit from a yagya, and he gave it to his favorite wife, Krita Duty. And yeah, they had a son together. And Angara Muni said, name your son Harsha Shoka, which means happiness and lamentation.
Oh, wow.
It's like shoka here. Harsha Shoka.
Shocker.
Yeah, it's a shoka. Lamentation. So, yeah, and then that child was poisoned by the co-wives because they got envious of how he was spending all his time with her. Reminds me, though, of in the Bible, Abraham and his wife Sarah, they couldn't have a child, and then for so long they got so old, eventually they had this child, Isaac, and then one day God speaks to Abraham, tells him to take Isaac up to the mountain and sacrifice him. So he takes him up there, you know, they're going up the mountain to do the sacrifice. They get up there, and, you know, Isaac is like, where's the, obviously we're doing like a sacrifice here, but where's like the lamb or anything, you know? So they set it all up, and then, you know, and then, I mean, according to the story, Isaac is just like passively laying there, you know, and Abraham's going to kill him, you know? The son's not even resisting, or maybe he is, I don't know, but it doesn't say that he is. But then Abraham's like, man, do I really have to do this? And then he's like, okay, I'm going to do it. And then God says, nah, just psych, I was just testing. Just wanted to see what you would do. It's slightly less dramatic than that. It was on Reddit in our anti-work. some guy in America, he's like, my boss called a meeting and we all had to go in, and then we got there and he didn't show up for 20 minutes and then we all left, you know. And then I got a message from my boss, and it was like a loyalty test to see. Apparently, what the boss was trying to do was to see who would step up and like lead the meeting or something, you know, because the guy. Anyway, it was like. And then he was like, "Yeah, I'm, you know, sorry about that and everything, and you know, if you want to have a conversation with me, you know, out of band, then you know." And then someone in the comments was like, "Yeah, ask him for a meeting, and then don't show up, and then send him the same message." But the idea of a loyalty test, you know, a loyalty test. So this is kind of, in a sense, like a loyalty test, you know, like what would you do if it was like doing the right thing? And then what happens if you put doing the right thing up against some hard choice? You know, like, I mean, today in the news, I don't know if you guys saw this, it came out about that paramedic who was fired for not taking one of the injections, the COVID vaccine. And he was the face of the St. John's ambulance after he was fired, including for their recruiting campaign. Can you believe it? He's like a Tongan, he was apparently their only Tongan, you know, associate working for St. John's ambulance, so he was kind of like the diversity guy. And then they had him, you know, on their campaigns and everything, and then they fired him for not taking the jab, and they kept using him for their advertising and for recruiting, including for their vaccination drive.
Crazy.
Yep. But that's come out in the newspaper now, and it's like a human interest story, and it's like how horrible this is. And it says he went to Parliament to the protest, and he was there at the protest for 19 days, working as one of the medics alongside Jace and the others there. And so, you know, in the news now, they're starting to show the human impact of what was done. And they're putting that up at the same time against the ineffectiveness and the damage from the vaccines starting to come out. And now people are having to confront, like, someone put a meme up there and it said, if you are okay with this, and it's like no service unless you have a vaccine. If you ever wondered what you'd do with this, and it says whites only, if you ever wondered what you would do with this, if you were okay with this, and it shows vaccine pass only, now you know what you would do. So that was kind of like a purity test, if you will, where you had to choose to do something that was difficult, but it wasn't even having to kill your family. Although they did kind of make it sound like that, right? If you don't get the jab, you're going to kill your grandmother and all the other people and everything.
Yeah.
So they kind of made it similar to this situation that Arjuna's in, which is like a tough one to be in.
Yeah, definitely doing the right thing is the most difficult decision. It's not easy. Because you're confronted with many things, you know, my family and how you're going to be seen by your friends, your economy, all of that.
Bro grew up with Duryodhana, you know, even though he was like bullied by him, you know. Personally, killing your bully seems a bit too far on there, you know, like...
It's a bit extreme.
Tone it down a bit, man. Okay, have a scrap or something. Just don't, like, go after them and go ham on them with a knife or something. You know, like... If I was standing across from people who I was raised with, people who I didn't necessarily love, but I knew them quite well, would I... And I was told, yo, you know, go... slice and dice, you know? I don't think I'd go over there and slice and dice. Maybe and slice and dice, you know, myself to get out of the, you know,
The situation.
predicament, the situation, and take the easy way out.
Yeah.
You know, but I wouldn't go slice and dice my friends.
It's like that meme, everyone gangster until it's time to actually slice and dice. Or there's that funny meme with Krishna, and it shows him doing all this stuff, you know, like dancing on the head of the Kaliya serpent, and, you know, they're throwing the donkeys around and stuff. And then Mother Yashoda's come in the last one, and she's running after, you know, Damodar when he, like, breaks the butter pot, and he's running away, and it says, everyone gangster until Mum comes home. It's a bit like that. Yeah, everybody might fantasize about doing that. Relatable. Yeah, everyone's, you know, you might fantasize about getting revenge and everything, but when it comes down to the moment, who's actually going to do it?
Exactly.
Prahlad? Thoughts?
And I was thinking, totally off topic, but when it said affected with lamentation, that but he was so affected with lamentation that he sat down again. When it says sat down again, that could imply that he was already sitting at one point, or
it doesn't say sat down again though.
Yeah.
He sat
In the
on chair.
purport. Let's bring it up. Ding. So not in the verse, but in the purport it says he stood up on the chariot observing the situation, and then he sat down again, setting aside his bow and arrows.
Yeah, well, that could mean two different things. Either he was already sitting and he sat down again, or he was standing and he sat down again.
Well, it says, while observing the situation, he stood up on the chariot.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like normally...
Yeah, it's like you sitting on the chariot and then you stand up, look around, like, oh my God, sit down. Like, what am I up to now? You know, what am I going to do?
He was also thinking probably about the pain he'd caused people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not just the people in front of him. Well, of course the people in front of him, you know. Pain isn't exactly a very nice thing to go through, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're going to have to, like, slice someone up. That's going to hurt, man.
I don't think I've ever seen any of the illustrations of him sitting down in the chariot.
He was standing up when he was going with Krishna for sure, and then while Krishna was talking, I think he...
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, there isn't much details about it. Yeah.
Ian Daniel, shout out. He says, think about the American Civil War. Friends took arms against each other.
Mm.
Man, that's real. Civil wars are really... Because, you know, you really have to create a sense of the otherness. You know, there's like
He didn't leave the oven on.
heaps
Okay.
of propaganda.
Mm. But you know, this is actually where
We would smell it if the oven was on.
This is something that we went through, many people went through, you know. Families, they went disrupted because
The COVID.
the COVID, so you know.
And the
it's-
COVID measures.
Yes,
Yeah.
oh no, you haven't got vaccinated, you're not thinking about me. They just like push the family away, and it's just like they feel isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what they wanted to create with these so-called jobs, and they manipulated to that extent.
Tinfoil hat time. So,
Oh, no.
I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist.
God, man.
But to this point of like you have to create the otherness, and it takes a lot of propaganda to do that, to create a civil war. No, sorry, to create any war.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, you know, the Nazis, they're eating babies, and you know you got to do all that kind of stuff to get people like, oh, we'll go and get them, right? If you saw Black Mirror, the episode where I can't remember what it's called, but the soldiers, they have those implants in their eyes that they can see, you know, their radar and where the other guys are and all that kind of stuff. But one guy's thing starts malfunctioning. And then it turns out that the people that they're fighting that look like zombies are actually just like, you know, unvaccinated people living outside the central bank digital currency system. And then they're like, you know, hunting them down and shooting them. And he's like, what am I doing? But it's what's needed to override that, you know, impulse to not, because biological living entities are encoded, most of them, there's a few exceptions to it, but mostly to not kill members of their own species. They'll fight to submission, but they don't fight to the death. And so to get human beings to be able to kill each other takes a lot.
Oh yeah.
A lot of training and a lot of propagandizing to their brains, and even having done that, afterwards they end up with PTSD, because just psychologically humans are not wired to do that. That's why they like to replace them with machine systems that they can use, you know, so you like playing a video game instead.
You have to be a complete psychopath that you don't have like that emotional part in your wiring in your brain, in order for you to just see and enjoy killing a person without remorse.
Very few people are wired like that, yeah.
Yeah, but in this case we're just talking about this. We're talking about this warrior that's well known and powerful,
Mm-hmm.
and he has this, you know, loving connection to his family members, and also behind that is his moral and spiritual codes that he follows. And here he is. He's all softy.
Haribol Tom tuning in. So the COVID thing, conspiracy time, right? I mean, that COVID was a faked pandemic, and these are some, conspiracy theories. COVID was faked, the vaccine is this, that, and the other thing. Kindergarten level stuff. Next level. The whole operation is designed to create the polarization in the population and the othering of the groups. So the first othering was like, you're going to kill my grandmother and my, family by not taking the vax. And then so I want you to be banned and you should be punished and fire those people from their jobs, right? Then you've created the othering of that group. But now that group is like, dude, you guys really did that to us? You really did that to us? See, now you got like the two sides.
Fighting, yeah.
The goal of the whole thing is precisely to create those two sides. Because now that you have the two sides, you can set them against each other.
Oh, yes.
So you see that meme that goes around on Facebook and everything about, if you put the red ants and the black ants together in the jar and shake it up, they fight each other.
Yeah, yeah. They kill each other.
Yeah, what they did with that is the polarization was created by creating the red ants and the black ants, the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. And so one of the great things, one of the things that was really touching and powerful for me at the Parliament protests was seeing the stickers there that said vaxxed and unvaxxed standing together. I might even have one of those here. Hang on. Just like give people a close up. Ta-da! There it is. This is so powerful because this is a subversion of what I say the actual, one of the actual goals of the whole thing was. Yeah. So that was like, nope.
That's exactly what they don't want, because they cannot manipulate to a group that is tightly connected and
cohesive. Yeah.
They cannot. They have no power at all. And what happens is that people psychologically being weakened that to the point like they separated themselves, and then they are, angry for the other family members or team members or whatever.
And this takes us back to the very beginning of the Bhagavad-gita, the very first verse. Sañjaya uvāca. No, Dhritarashtra uvāca. Dhritarashtra has the first word in the Bhagavad-gita. He says, Dharmakshetre kurukshetre samavete yuyutsavaha mamaka pandavaschaiva kimma kurvata Sañjaya. Having assembled on the place of pilgrimage called Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did my sons and the sons of Pandu do? My sons and the sons of Pandu. He created the two sides. My sons mamaka pandavaschaiva. And then when Arjuna says, Ratham stapaya mechuta, take me out Sinayo uvayo madhya, in the middle of the two armies, Krishna says, just behold all of the Kurus assembled here. And so he refers to all of them as one family. So he's like provoking that breakdown in Arjuna, because he's like reducing the otherness and talking about, hey, it's a family reunion. Like, you haven't seen the whole family hasn't been together like since Christmas, like 5 years ago. Wow. Amazing, isn't it? No wonder Arjuna like freaks out like this. Krishna's kind of pushed him into it.
Yeah.
Further thoughts?
Nope.
No. Check the comments.
Oh. Loyalty test by the media. Well, the media if you think of the media as a psychological operations arm, which it is, because if you look into the history of it, like the media has, since it was created, has been used to propagandize the people, and it became massively important in the First World War, and then in the Second World War they developed it into a science, and then the propaganda departments from the Second World War rolled straight out of that into the advertising industry, which powers what we call the free media, You are the product, and you're being sold to advertisers. And through psychological manipulation, they make you want to buy the iPhone and think that you wanted to do it. And that's not the only thing that they do. What?
Pretty sure I wanted to buy the iPhone.
Of course you did. Yeah, they spent millions of dollars to get you to want to do it yourself.
Okay.
Just think of it like this. If the marketing didn't work, why would they spend tens of millions of dollars on it?
Oh, why not? You need to put your money somewhere, man.
Yeah.
May as well go on an unhealthy spending thing.
And the way that it works is that it influences you to do the thing and think that you wanted to do the thing. It doesn't work if they're like bashing over the head telling you to do it, and then you're like, oh, they want me to do it. It works by infiltrating your mind and making you go like, yeah, I really want to do that. And that's how the media works. It pretends that it's presenting you with information, but it's a sophisticated psychological operation to manipulate you. Like now, they're manipulating the people to start to view the Parliament protesters as like human, justified, hard done by, the inhumanity. How could they have done this to this guy, They made him the face of St. John's Ambulance. He's got such a heart for people that he was down there at the protest for 19 days, working as a medic voluntarily, tending to protesters who were injured by the police. They're protesting against these mandates, and then St. John's was continuing to use him as the face of the company and for recruiting. And even, the media's like put it in there, even they used him as the face for their vaccination drive, even though he was personally opposed to it and thought that it was immoral. And he thought it was immoral that they were using him to promote it.
Yeah.
Oh,
definitely.
isn't that terrible?
It's horrible.
Yeah, but why is the media reporting that? Because that's what they want you to think. Now they want you to think that. They didn't want you to think that before.
No, absolutely
There
not.
was one group that they wanted you to think that before, because they have divided the audiences into two different audiences. And then they gave them two different messages, different memes, different campaigns. So, they if you look at it, you can see it. The messaging, trust the science. You remember that? Then there was that conspiracy thing, Q, trust the plan. I mean, look at it. It came out of the same workshop, literally. So obvious. Trust the science, trust the plan. Which flavor would you like, the plan or the science? But either one, it's just trust the science, trust the plan. You're just signing up for one of the flavors. Do you want Coke or Pepsi?
I don't like either.
I'll drink
Wouldn't it
Kool-Aid.
be more like, do you want Coke, Sprite, or Fanta? They're all Coke.
Yeah, exactly. But, Coke and Pepsi, I'm pretty sure that if you trace the ownership of Coke and Pepsi back far enough, you're going to find the common owner,
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the situation here on the battlefield. You have these two sides to the thing, but it's one family. And now Arjuna's caught in that. He needs the otherness to be able to fight, but the otherness is gone for him because he's like, this is my family and I don't want to do this. So he cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief, distressed within the mind by lamentation. Any further thoughts?
No.
No? Okay, that is the end of the first chapter of the Bhagavad-gita. So tomorrow we begin with chapter 2. Let's close with the verse. Sañjaya uvāca evam uktvārjunaḥ saṅkhye rathopastha upāviśat visṛjya sa-śaram cāpam śoka-saṁvigna-mānasaḥ. Sañjaya said, Arjuna, having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief.
The Met Gala was 2 days ago.
The Met Gala?
Yeah, it was yesterday.
What is that?
It's like a fashion thing.
Only the biggest fashion thing hosted by the biggest fashion museum in the world.
Never heard
You're
of
on the wrong side of the internet, man.
Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Total world victory of Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, we haven't ended it yet?
No.
We have now.
Okay.
Yeah, the Met Gala was 2 days ago.
Shut